English translation, 176th. Contact Wednesday, 15th of September, 1982. 0350 hours.
Why have you called me so urgently, my friend?
Ushi causes us problems, which already creates an uproar within the group.
I understand. Her bewildering delusion already causes harm to the thinking of the group members. This was to be expected, unfortunately, because your and our efforts of assistance did not bear any fruit.
It is exactly so. Everything will get worse and worse. Ushi has gotten herself into a completely damned delusion of discord, which was obviously caused by her parents, and especially by her mother.
That is correct. But another factor contributes to this evil, which I was only able to grasp recently. This other evil is that a number of years ago, Ushi had fallen into an addiction to alcohol, and also filled herself with illicit drugs. This led to some irreparable damage of certain parts of her brain, which jeopardizes her thoughts and actions and makes these slow. But even this course of action, and the urge for alcohol and drugs, rests as a crucial point with the parents. Particularly from the side of the religion-laden mother, was Ushi forced into living with non-independent thinking and acting, which are built upon a very strong sense of guilt compulsion. Through the constant sectarian handling of her upbringing, etc., Ursula was forced into a form of dependence to her parents, which besides was always designed such that she would feel guilty for concerns and incidents, to whose appearances, however, she contributed nothing wrong. Even as a child, Ursula was given tasks by her parents and was assigned duties that may only be assigned to adults. But then, when the child committed a mistake, guilt was awarded to her. So Ursula developed a guilt complex in this respect, which also strongly expressed itself at a later time, especially during her professional training, which has been reinforced by the renewed sectarian machinations of her parents, and which has survived to this day. Particularly through this delusion of guilt, the self-will, and the possibility of becoming independent, and Ushi's upbringing were so immobilized that even her own and free decision-making ability was taken away. Thus, she steadily floats between positive and negative, in the sense that on the one hand, she would probably like to be herself and live according to what corresponds to her own personal desires, while on the other hand, she always has the threatening sectarian words of her mother hanging over her like a sword of Damocles, which speak of fiery damnation, the devil, and God's punishment, and in particular, you should be the embodiment of Satan and the center of hell on earth, and a pit of damnation and vice. A last remnant of self-preservation drives Ursula to fulfill the mission and to fulfill her own desires and the truth, while the parental pressure exerted on her wants to tear her away from this, which leads to a dilemma and to the self-destruction of Ushi, who cannot deliberately pull herself together in order to free herself from the sectarian clutches of her leading, forbearing parents. But still, Ursula hoards a last remnant of reason and self-will within herself, through which she could free herself if she truly strove. But in order to be able to do this, she would have to go on vacation within a very short time, and best of all, with some group members, with whose help and supervision they could rouse her last will and everything could normalize. And if it would be possible for you to find a group member, then this would have to happen within the next 3 days. However, it can and should be respected that these things are explained to Ursula and that she voluntarily decides to take such a step. From our side, I also have to say that we must see no other possibility and set her before the choice of an immediate exclusion, with all statutory consequences of the statutes and without the possibility of a return to the core group of Phi Gu. Or she can take the step of attempting to proceed with a suitable group member for 2 to 3 months far away from the center in order to organize her thoughts and normalize them. If she cannot resolve for this second step, or if she breaks off such a possible attempt prematurely, or if she does not deliberately strive in the set time period of 2 to 3 months, by which means a normalization could come into being, then an inevitable exclusion with all consequences has to take place. But this would mean for Ursula that she would have to go into psychiatric treatment, because only then could imposed psychiatric drugs be helpful to her. This, if she does not fully capture her last remaining will and consciously hold to a return to normal. She already truly stands with one foot in the insane asylum, as it was the case with Roland.
I have already explained this to her several times, and just a few hours ago, I reminded her of the same things again. However, it was in vain. I made it clear to her that she has already gone so far downward that she is almost ready for the mental hospital. But this has also borne no fruit. And if I am to be honest, then I must tell you that I see no other way out than just a tag mule, even if it sounds damn brutal. But this is the truth that I see.
That is also of correctness. The attempt that she brings herself back to normal thinking is only a hope, but one that will hardly come true because her thinking is too burdened by the sectarian and condemning coercion of her parents, whereby she has fallen victim to this terrible dilemma and this delusion. True, she still has enough strength and intellect to hold to a return if she frees herself from her controlling parents. But whether she will use this strength and her remaining intellect for this is doubtful. On my side, I can only see a vague hope, which is feeble, nevertheless.
I will speak with Engelbert about this as soon as he is awake, and I will then also take the necessary steps immediately, so that these things can still be dealt with today.
That probably will not be so quickly possible, but the decision must be made, and be carried out within no later than 3 days. If this is not settled within this time, then it has as a consequence that the mission and the existence of the entire group are again at risk.
I can act very quickly if it is urgent.
I know that, but I do not see that you can still do this today. 2 days might be the least in order to regulate these things.
We shall see, and that was it, actually.
Good. Then I would now like to make a statement that was actually first intended for you on Friday, and about which you will surely be pleased. On next Sunday morning, you should ready yourself at 8:15 hours because at this time, you will be able for the first time to greet our entire spirit leadership on Era.
Man, you are crazy. You have actually meant this seriously. But man, how am I simply supposed to be able to leave? This will certainly take many hours.
That is of correctness. You will be on Era for 3 days.
That will not work, you know that.
We have thought about that, which is why we will create a manipulation of time. You will have been away from the Earth for less than 5 hours when I bring you back here again.
Then nothing is to be argued against it.
Then I will expect you on Sunday morning punctually at 8:15 Cruz. But in addition, one more thing. The 3 days on Era will be strenuous for you, and you will hardly find any sleep during this time. So concern yourself with finding plenty of sleep, and that until Sunday morning, it is not like it has been for the past few days, such that you have slept too little.
You can give me your special food and your special drinks, which expel sleepiness.
Those will be necessary either way, nevertheless, it is appropriate that you find plenty of sleep. For several weeks, you have been sleeping too little, and in particular, Ursula and Ingrid, as well as Ferdinand, are the main factors who rob you of your sleep. Very often until now, Ursula has kept you awake into the morning, so during that time you only found 1 to 2 hours of sleep. Ingrid also robbed you of nearly entire nights. In this regard, a little more common sense in certain group members would be appropriate, because you also need your rest and your sleep. But most group members do not think about that and still grumble to themselves when you collapse, and sometimes sleep for 2 to 3 hours when they are awake and have to work. Concerning this, it has not escaped me that negative thoughts and feelings appear in one or another of the group members if they find you sleeping while they have to work, etc. However, they do not see that often and for weeks. You only find very little sleep, even though you may lie in bed, where instead of sleeping, you then work hard in thought and meditation while being half asleep, because you never have enough time to do this when you pursue your many activities.
Okay, let's leave this, nevertheless.
Some other time I will talk about this further. Now farewell, my friend.
Take care, you moral preacher. Bye.